A big issue I see with veterans is that they're doing one of two things. They're either suffering in silence, trying to push forward, just push through it, get to that next day, get to that next achievement, maybe it'll be better later, or they're simply not maximizing their potential. They're not using all of the assets, all the tools they learned in the military, all the tools available to them to forge their own path, to continue to excel and build something for themselves, their family, their community. The military is a fantastic place to succeed. It is built for success. And the problem is veterans exit the military and they haven't internalized those systems and those virtues that help produce success, produce results, and they wind up feeling like an outlier. They feel disconnected. They're unable to create, generate, and maintain that momentum that's going to bring them across that finish line. Another challenge is that they don't have any inner peace. They may be successful outwardly, they may have these measures of success in our society, but they do not have this inner peace, this inner stillness, this inner solidarity. They feel disconnected with themselves, perhaps with their community, their family members. They could be in a room full of people, but they still just miss that connection. They may mentally know that they care about these people and love these people and even die for these people, but emotionally it's just not there. Also, they're in a helping profession. And so it's a very masculine helping profession. So any idea, any glimpse, anything resembling help to them conflicts with their identity. Why am I here in front of you now? I'm a combat vet. I was in the Army, infantry, served in Afghanistan. I'm a former deputy. I've also been a therapist for combat vets since about 2014, and now I have this coaching business where I'm working towards building a community to continue to give back to these veterans. Here's the major issue: the subconscious mind. Psychologists will tell us that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. 80 or 90% of those are recycled. That can be a huge advantage or huge disadvantage. We want to work towards using that subconscious mind, wielding it as an asset. It's as if we have this switchboard on our chest. And if, for example, a person walked up to me or I walked into a situation, it's as if that person or situation looks at the switchboard, figures out which button they want to push or which reaction they want to elicit, and they push that button and it turns our gears and brings up that subconscious program, and we react. The research shows that the programs were programmed into us even as early as 7, 8, 9 years old, that what our parents and teachers and all the main figures in our life, what they thought about us, were essentially projected into us. So this content is about not being a prisoner to our past anymore. It's about having a more conscious life, more conscious choices. It's about snapping out of autopilot, doing life on purpose, living life on purpose, and accessing more of our inner power, our inner potential. We'll have essentially 3 main lanes that we focus on, and one of them is pure psychological analysis. It is taking the thousands of veterans that I've worked with over thousands of hours and multiple years, and seeing the patterns, seeing the themes that emerge, and using that collection of voices, those lived experiences, sitting and listening and listening and listening and dealing with all the stuff that no one wants to deal with, the huge internal challenges, taking that golden arena of information and synthesizing it into a whole that we can provide here, but also looking at the top research, looking at the leaders and pillars in the mental health community. Some of those psychological keys is creating clarity, but also growing awareness. Nothing moves without awareness, and no consistent, positive, healthy decisions are made without clarity. Also, we need to learn to have these goals, but we need objectives, but what we really need to do is raise our standards for ourselves, for other people, so we get what we require. Another aspect is about limitation. It's about limiting your interests, limiting what you spend your time on, focusing yourself on a specific objective, and continuing to hammer that objective until you get it knocked out. Action, action, action. Without action, all the knowledge in the world continues to remain impotent. It's the example, the analogy of the cure for cancer. If a doctor has cure for cancer, if they don't do anything with it, what good is it? It just sits there. it's not getting anywhere because there's no action on the back end helping spread the information. Next lane is Pranic Healing. It's an energetic healing modality, and it may sound odd coming from a combat veteran and former deputy, but here are the results. I've seen a 50-year-old trauma, for instance, be removed through Pranic Healing, even in one session. And well, what does that really mean? What does that look like? Be removed, be healed? Well, trauma, it can exist in this thought and emotional state. And many times our thoughts and our emotions are intertwined together. Well, Pranic Healing has a really great way of being able to remove the negative emotion for something. So sure, we still may remember pieces of the actual traumatic experience, but the negative emotional association or overly negative emotional association can be removed, because many times here's this trauma and here's the emotion. Many times the emotion is actually 10 times the size of my hand. It's this overgrown thing that is wreaking havoc in our life and in our bodies. And this is a practical, powerful tool to help remove and separate that and put it more in its proper place so we can move forward in life. That's an example from my therapy practice. So from this coaching practice here, it has a lot more to do with our goals. As we line up on our goals, we're going to have negative tendencies, negative things that our mind throws at us, and these different blocks. Pranic Healing can remove those. It's as if we have this internal mountain we have to climb to achieve this objective. Well, Pranic Healing can help really turn that more into a hill we have to walk up. There's still work to do, but it can remove the negative tendencies and turn that into a hill, and also pump up the positive qualities that we have to make those easier to practice. So for example, removing laziness and procrastination and amping up the tendency to act. You might ask how a combat vet falls into a Pranic Healing or energy healing practice. Well, it wasn't by choice, it wasn't voluntarily, it was out of desperation, out of need. If what I've found is that someone is, the more pain they're in, the more motivated they are to act, to do, to find solutions, but also the more open they are. And I was indeed open. I was coming to the end of my rope, and so I started trying more and more stuff, and this was one of the things. And so I actually went to this event. I learned about it. I really liked the presenter. They're kind of talking about it a little bit like I'm talking about it. And so I followed through. I went and I learned a little bit more. And in the class, you learn and then you practice. So there's a practical application portion. And so very early on, I think it was over 2 days. The first day, the first couple of hours we're learning. The first couple of minutes of application, I was receiving Pranic Healing and what we had just learned, and I had, in addition to PTSD and some other mental health stuff, but also a tremendous amount of GI issues, a lot of GI issues that was even impacting my mental health significantly. And I was receiving Pranic Healing, and one of the major symptoms I had was severe constipation, and you can kind of see where this is going. Well, I felt it was almost like this tennis ball, felt like all of a sudden it dropped out of my upper GI, and the follow-on experience, it felt like a bunch of blood and warmness was circling around that area and flooding to that area. And within some seconds, I realized that I needed to go use the restroom immediately. And, not to get too much into the details, but for the next 70, 80 minutes, I missed lunch because I was still in the restroom. But it was this big, giant cleansing. And it was tough because I had all these subconscious programs that this wasn't possible. I was going more because I was curious. And I liked, the presenter. But I had this internal conflict. The rational side of me didn't accept what just happened, but the facts, the reality, seemed to say that there was a lot of legitimacy and immediacy to what I was experiencing. So I was experiencing physical results right away, and they were undeniable, and I had those 70 or 80 minutes to really think about it before I could run out and just leave or quit or do anything else. And so I continued, I persisted, I kept seeing results. So I really brought it into my life and tested it. Another simpler example is my daughter. She was, I think, 2.5 at the time. She was running, and we were on vacation. She was running, and she face planted. And she had this big, it was a little bit bigger than a golf ball size gash here, this rub spot, and heads bleed a lot. So there was blood everywhere, and she had this big scrape right here too. And so I applied Pranic Healing, I think only for 4 or 5 minutes. I had planned on doing it later in the night, but I forgot about it. And the next morning, this looked like it was about 85% or 90% healed, almost all the way healed. And it was really great because this I had forgotten to heal, because this was the big thing that was bleeding and all this stuff. And so this actually had a lot of big scabs, and it was red, and the area around it was red, whereas this looked like it was mostly healed. It looked like her beautiful little forehead. And you know, that's just another simple example. Another lane that we'll be talking about is meditation. And meditation can be a lot of things, but for our practical purposes, meditation is simply mental training. If we have these thoughts or these emotions, or we want to think better thoughts or be better or say better words or have better habits, it all really begins with our thoughts. Our thoughts produce emotions and can guide emotions. Those together eventually produce our words. Those together eventually produce our actions. Those together produce our habits. Those together produce our behaviors. Those together produce who we are, our character, our virtues. Meditation is simply a way that we can, if this is the line of consciousness, conscious and subconscious mind, we can dip into the subconscious mind, clean stuff out, wash it, scrub it, get rid of the junk, program the good stuff, and then get up and move on with our life. We blend these tools into a self-mastery program because, after all, any issue that we have, internal or external, is simply a reflection of an underdeveloped character trait or traits. Therefore, your adversities, your problems, your challenges are your roadmaps to success, because they are your roadmaps inwards for self-review, what's going on inside, what is limiting, what old beliefs that are outdated programs can I get rid of and update. That's all we need, is to be updated. The almost cliche term, I almost hesitate to say it, but it's not the destiny that matters, it's the journey. We've all heard variations of that. And I always thought it meant that you're supposed to be happy right now and not just put your head down and sprint towards the destination and get there. We need to learn to enjoy the ride. And that's true, but on a deeper level, what it's really getting at is that it's our character that gets forged in the process. It's as if here's the boulder, here's the problem, and here's little old us. We, to get past, over, through, around, under, however we're going to get past this boulder, to overcome it, we actually have to grow. We have to grow big so we can stand on top of that, conquer it, and then move on to an even bigger boulder. And so what that means is that the journey provides the vehicle for forging your character, your virtues. It's who you become along the way that is the gold, because it's what takes you even further. It's what's going to continue to feed you for the rest of your life. You take 10 years to accomplish this goal, well, that's great, but in 10 years, this goal isn't going to matter so much because it's 10 years in the past. But what's going to matter are the virtues, the qualities, the character that you forged to get there, because that is the vehicle you're going to have to hop in and use and mobilize to be able to conquer your next objective and your next objective and your next objective. So take back your life, your joy, your motivation, your purpose, your success, and live on purpose.